Well, trying to get this thing to work again. There I am. Hey, Floyd. How are you? Hi, Maria. So we have Maria, who's in Norway, and Floyd, where are you? I'm in California, the land of, and we call ourselves the granola state, the land of fruits and nuts. I used to live in Oregon. Um, I spent some of I went to first grade in John Day, which is Eastern Oregon, which is high desert. It's very different from Western Oregon. Not at all, really close to Idaho, where the conference is going to be. And anyway, I wanted to talk about something. I'm going to talk about a few things, but I've been sort of conducting semi experiment on my own. Um, Weird things. MA had done. Oh, thanks. MA had done a some videos on random, whether or not things are random in this world. And he did things with like dice, you know, and other things. He was trying to find out if the ME is affecting how physics works in our world. And we know now that the speed of light's different and things. He's brilliant. He just he's got such a scientific mind and education that things that I wouldn't look into, he does. But I mean, he has like this eidetic memory, and he doesn't sleep much, and I guess he done a lot of study. But he talked about randomness and whether or not we have a randomness in this world. I'm going to pull my thing back and step back. Um, so I wanted to find out if there was any kind of thing to what he said, because I don't like to just take people's word for it. Although he's a pretty good reliable source, he is always encouraging us to find out on our own, in our own way, what what we think, what we've discovered, things like that. So because I'm a curious person and everything, I decide, well, now you're gonna probably think this is weird. Hi, Cupie. But I mean, I wanted to find out if things were really random here, and hi, Paul, and whether or not these things really are being affected, or I mean, we don't. A lot of us have theories about what the Mandela effect is, and that's understandable because I mean, we don't know. I think a lot of us have little pieces of what it is. It may not be just one thing. It could be all kinds of things. And it would be very difficult to pin it down. So now, I'm one of those artsy fartsy people. I'm one of those woo woo strange people. So my mother got me. Now, don't freak out. Um, I was curious, because I do tarot, for fun and to help access my intuition and higher self. I don't think they are intrinsically evil. I think that depends on, anything evil has to depend on the hands of who it's in, you know. Um, and I thought, well, I was just curious. I have a lot of tarot cards. I do it sometimes and just for fun. And I thought I'd watch tarot readings online for myself and for other people that I know and stuff, and see if there's anything consistent. If it's random, if it's consistent. And they pull out the cards and they do it in a very strange way. They do this thing where they shuffle them this way, and it's they beat the cards up to pieces. I mean, one woman, her cards were like this and like all kind of warped. Bless her heart. But they were all warped looking. And I said, I don't do it that way. And I've decided it doesn't matter how you do it, because things are not random here. Okay. And the reason I think that's true is, let me tell you, within a several day, 3 or 4 day period, I decided I'd watch as many as I could, just out of curiosity. A lot of them happen to be Taurians, by the way, which is what I am, which is kind of interesting. And you have to understand, they use like 3, 4, 5 decks. Okay. Almost all of them do. And each deck has 60 to 78 cards. Some of them are traditional Rider-Waite type cards with the major arcana, like playing cards with different meanings, with clubs, swords, whatever. And then some are like oracle cards that talk about fairies, or they talk about earth elements, or they talk about healing, or archangels, or archetypes. I mean, there's all kinds of different cards. And they'll use a tremendous selection of cards. So we're talking about they're pulling from decks they're like 300 cards. Okay, 300 cards. Hi, Adam. So you have these huge number of cards they're using. And so I was curious. I said, okay, within a several day period, I looked at quite a few readers. And and it was very strange, because in this short period of time, in their weird way of doing it, where they just flipping them back and forth and the card flies out and that's when they pick. Seriously, I just wonder how many cards they go through, after so many months of doing that to the poor things. And lo and behold, every reading they pulled out, I would say, the same 5 or 6 cards multiple times in different decks. And then I said, well, I wonder, I have several apps on my phone, because I figure, well, there's the randomness of you doing it. Then there's the randomness of something electronic doing it. So I wanted to check that out. So I did my own cards, and lo and behold, same cards popping up. Did it on my phone, lo and behold, same cards popping up. I mean, and I'm thinking, well, if things are not random here, what does that mean? If you just step outside of your religious beliefs, your spiritual beliefs, and just look at this like it's a scientific experiment, which really, for the most part, I was looking at it as. I was curious about, how we have a consciousness we share and things like this. But still, even if we have that, why would it affect which cards are supposedly randomly pop out of the deck? Okay, look at it like a scientist. Don't look at it like it's a spiritual hell or something. I mean, they're just cards. Okay, they really are just cards, and it's the energy of people that's dangerous, not the energy of an object normally, unless a person has put something bad into something. These are just symbolic, and we know from logo changes, we know from art changes, we know from all these things that symbology changes with the ME all the time. we see how they change with all kinds of, like seals of a country, or flags, or like Moses having horns now, and bizarre stuff like that. We know that symbols are changing in our world, and it doesn't make any sense. But then if you look at that, each timeline we may be shifting in has different origins of those symbols. So we'll talk about dowsing too if you want, Esmeralda, because I've got some dowsing rods. My dad used to do it, so we'll talk about that too. So let's talk about randomness. Supposedly, I know MA could go wax eloquent on this in his way. Bless his heart. But I'm not so much. I never had that much physics. But I know, understandably, that randomness is supposed to be random. Like things are supposed to find some kind of equilibrium that makes sense in your world. That it's not something. It's just like when they test psychics, or whatever you want to call them, that they have to achieve results much greater than chance or randomness. In the University of Colorado, I think they were testing psychics back in the 90s, early 2000s. And they found that these people were really going way above chance. So let's talk about that. If this is happening, if we look at it like a scientific experiment, we have to think about what would be causing this randomness to be messed up. Well, I play Guild Wars 2. I'm a hero. You know that already. And that's pretty advanced game in the sense of graphics and storyline and characters. And yet, we're pretty young in the area of game making, simulations and virtual games and things like this. And yet we're getting pretty good at it. But things aren't random in there either. It's very much controlled. You can feel like you have random control, but they have things set in place in the background that determine that if you do blah, 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 this happens. If you do blah, 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 that happens. And it's so convoluted, it's difficult to figure out what they call the logarithm is. Now, logarithms I used to do with a slide rule, which are actually kind of fun to do with a slide rule. It actually is. It's kind of sad that people don't use them anymore because they were kind of fun to learn how to use. But, logarithms are kind of how they determine software things. Logarithms are used for all kinds of things. I'm not going to go into that because maybe we'll talk about logarithms when I study up on it, or we'll ask MA to talk about logarithms or something because he's smart. Okay, so Maria, you said you did somewhat the same kind of thing, and you found that it showed you what you wished for, not what was real. Okay. We can manifest. So are we part of the logarithm that alters chance events? Hi, Ghosty. Hi, Kurt. Well, it's a different world, and well, Kurt, they talk about how could South America shift? Well, when Pangea happened, it happened a little differently. When it split apart, happened a little differently. Some chance thing changed how it all worked. Hi, First Munch. You found 2 more MEs. You want to share what you found? Or you want to keep it secret? Which is okay if you want to. Yeah, Pangea, the theory is that all the land masses were one mass at one time, and they're pretty sure about this because they'll have fossil records that have something in common, or there'll be certain animals that have genetics in common, and so they kind of fit together and look at the faults under the ocean, and that's what they this is the theory. And I think it's, if you look at everything, you can actually kind of fit them together like a puzzle. So whether this is true or not, I don't know. I'm afraid in this world we work with ideas and theories. I refuse to say I know anything anymore. But I mean, we're talking about randomness and chance. I don't think there is any randomness or chance. Okay? I don't think our lives are like, I don't think we're puppets. Okay, I don't want to say that. Oh, cool, First Munch. I think that we are affecting our reality more than we realize. And that is why it's so important to be positive in your thoughts, especially those of us in the MA community, because there's something, I don't know if I want to say special or bizarre or strange, or we have abilities. For some reason, because we see outside the program, so to speak, we have more influence, perhaps. But I think we see the influence of those who are negative as well, very much so. But I mean, talking about going back to randomness, there is no randomness. You have these people that talk about fate and destiny and purpose and stuff like that. And I really think that your destiny and purpose is what you decide it to be, to some extent. But I think this is like, I'm not going to deny that God or the infinite light or the creator or anybody, I think they exist. I think it may not be one energy, it may be several, I don't know. But I think there is an intelligence, a sacred intelligence that watches over us. But I think we're here to learn and to grow and to understand our personal power. We would, I mean, most of us don't have any idea about who we really are, because especially in this changing world, who are we? What are we? I mean, when I found out I had certain abilities, especially my healing abilities that I had no control over, that went, you know, really wonky on me and did things that I didn't have control over. I thought I was some kind of monster, because knowledge has been lost through the centuries I believe, because of religion. And now I don't want to beat up anybody about their religious beliefs. I don't care. You can believe what you want, and that's fine. But I also think there's an inhibiting factor to religious beliefs in a society, that people that don't fit in with the belief system are either ostracized, destroyed, or suppressed. And knowledge is lost because of it. Now, I come from a line of healers. I know that now. Did anybody help me through this and tell me? No. I had to learn on my own, which is not easy. Okay. So religion has its good side and its not so good side, in the sense that it does teach some people how to access God, the Christ consciousness, their higher self and stuff, through prayer and meditation. That's a beautiful thing. I think prayer is a beautiful thing. I'm for prayer and meditation. This is a good thing, especially if it's not if it's praying against a group. We had Russians here praying against the gay people, and it's like, that's not how it works, people. That's not how it works. That's not how it works. But referring to randomness, if the video game I play, especially, I know UK Gadget Man does a great little racing thing that with his virtual reality. I mean, it looks real. I mean, it's not perfectly real, but it looks very real. And I'm thinking, well, what if God or the infinite light decided that they wanted us to have a physical experience and be challenged and be taught things and have a chance to enlarge our spirit and enlarge our knowledge, enlarge our courage and our compassion? How many ways are there to do that? Well, they say, oh, they send your soul down to incarnate into a physical body. Well, what if that process is a program? What if that's a incredibly advanced, spiritually tuned program? And I'm not saying that it negates God or anything. It could be that is part of God's power, that they can send us here, and that when we leave here, we're going home. There's no religion that says this is our home. And even if they do, they say it will be your home after it's transformed into the paradise. And it's like, well, whatever. And so, if there's no randomness, do we have free agency? I think we have a lot of free agency. We have more free agency than we realize. We have so much power, we are using it without knowing that we're using it. I'm going to read your talk in here for a minute here. Okay, you say, Floyd says, indeed, learning and growing to put into your heart is power of knowledge and understanding, wisdom, granted to you as a real person. And Kurt, you say, I've often thought randomness is what makes us see change, like we altered our path somehow and we have slipped into a different realm, like looking to a mirror and we slip into the other realm. The idea of multiverse is you're walking along, doing your thing, and you have a choice. And usually it's a big choice, not like, am I going to have muffins for breakfast? It's a life path choice. And you take one, and the other part of you, some other reality of you takes the other, and that splits off. And it's like an infinite splitting. I don't know if I believe this, but this is what they talk about. And you had to go back on your meds to stop getting called freaky by my doctor. Tell him I feel like a targeted individual was the last thing I wanted to say, but I have so much annoying things happen. It's interesting how science talks about all this weird stuff that's happening, and then on the other hand, they tell you other disciplines are not on the same page. They're not on the same page. They don't consider the possibility. They just spew out what they've been trained. Yeah, a new prosthetic lunch. Yeah. Um, Esmeralda, you think there's a universal database with all knowledge? Well, they call that the um, and I just had a blank in my head. The records, the ones that are in the spirit world, Akashic records. I did a meditation where I went there to where the Akashic records were. And there's this old fart that sits at the desk in front of it that you have to get past. It was funny as heck. Weird things happen when I meditate. Yeah, it's interesting. We have a lot of dichotomy here, or multiple, which is there's like two opposing views all the time. And I don't know how often that we're always faced with these two choices. It's like all the time. Do you want to do this or this? It's never a happy medium. It's always, do you want to do this or this? Hi, Sky. Um, and it's like, why is that? Why doesn't life kind of go, on a level, even journey? It doesn't. It's always this or this. You're always making choices. I don't know about you, but it's like all the time now. Big choices all the time. And it's like, geez, can I have a break? Please. I'm not going to say there aren't targeted individuals because this is a weird, weird world we live in. And there have been times when I thought there was something going on. So I just manifested them out of my reality. I just said, you're out of here. You are gone. Well, I felt a little picked on. My family all shunned me. That's for sure. But I've decided that there is no randomness in this world. There's nothing that's actually chance. Nothing happens by, serendipity and accident. This, I think, can be very much believed when you think about inventions in the past, that two people in different parts of the world would come up with the same theory and invention at the same time. This happens. It's bizarre. That's because we share knowledge and desires and we're interconnected. Are we the only ones interconnected? I think there may be other groups that have their own common consciousness, that they are perhaps on the darker side of it, and they are also manifesting. So we've got to really try hard to bring light and love, I know it sounds corny, to our world. Healing, compassion, understanding, equality, things like that. And when, you're that way and people want to put you in a box and say, oh, you're one of those bleeding liberals or whatever, or you're one of those, stupid conservatives or something, don't let them put you in a box. You don't belong in a box. No one does. I think we need to stop doing that. We need to stop saying this group and that group being at odds, because if we're fighting each other, we aren't talking and we aren't solving problems. If the media, whatever, is keeping us from finding a common ground, we're not going to solve problems in this world. We're just going to go round and round and round with hate and anger and misunderstandings and fear. And that's not good for anybody. It's not getting anything done. It's giving the elite all the power. And I don't like that. They don't deserve it. They don't deserve it. So when someone disagrees with you, it's just like, okay, tell me why you feel that way, and maybe you learn something. Maybe learn why they feel that way. Maybe they have a legitimate reason why they feel that way. And you have to say, well, I can understand that. Maybe we'll start getting along a little better, which would be nice. Yeah, you lose. I know when I think the Mandela effect started for me in the early 90s, where it really started affecting my life. People changed. I changed. Um, Things got bad. My life was very sad, very stressful. Um, I was being emotionally abused, children being physically abused. Not all the time, just, he would have rages. Now he's on medication and he's doing great. Okay. But still, it destroyed our relationship. I can't go back to him. I won't. And that's so sad. It really is. And we've all had this tremendous sadness in our lives. I think all of us have. Just take our hearts out, stomp them on the ground, and see, put them back in the wrong place. Yeah, I'll have to go look at your stuff, Munch. You're an interesting artist. You have a lot of passion and feeling in your art, which is what you're supposed to do, right? That's what art is. Yeah, you do doubt your sanity. You start wondering what the frick is going on? What is going on? About the randomness, I don't think there is any. Things are not random here. Things are not random here. Now, Lone talked about, he had a giggle fit. Lone Eagle had a giggle fit last night, or I guess this was last night or yesterday. And that was the most adorable thing I've ever heard in my life. um, and, he was talking about the Mandela Effect movie. And I wouldn't worry about it, because the more negative energy you put into it, it's not good. It's not good. Don't try not to wallow in the negative. I mean, you can visit there once in a while and, cry in your cup if you want, but, don't stay there. Don't stay there. Lift yourself up and say, okay, enough of that. Let's find something that I enjoy and do something I like for a minute. Yeah, some of our family have shifted away from us, or we've shifted away from them, and it can be very lonely. But I mean, the Mandela Effect movie, I don't know. I haven't seen it. It hasn't come out yet. But I wouldn't worry about it putting us in a bad light, because what it's really going to do is 9 times out of 10, these sort of things boomerang on whatever the intention was of who made the movie. And people are going to say, we're going to have kids go to that movie who are going to say, I've had this happen. Or they're going to ask their parents, have you experienced that? We're going to have a lot of conversation going on here. People are going to be talking about it more so. We really are. We're going to be talking about the world. 6-foot fish. Oh my gosh. Awesome. That's awesome, First Munch. Congratulations. You were an artist. When you have your stuff publicly displayed, you're official. But it's like, I did study some art history. I've also taken art in this most relatively recently, 2013, 14. Yeah, I mean, we know that a lot of people are affected. I mean, I do. This is what I believe, that don't want to think about it, don't want to address it. But if more people are talking about it because of this movie, they might feel like, okay, it's okay to talk about now. So I can talk about it now. And this might, like I said, it may boomerang on them. There's a theory, Esmeralda says, that a third of the world population don't have souls. Are called organic portals. Not sure how it's true, but I kind of believe it. I've met one. There was nothing inside this person, and they were put here to test me. And it was horrible. It was horrible, but it taught me so much. It's like, dang, did I have to have that lesson? Maybe I did. Maybe I had to have that lesson, you know? Wow. Congrats, First Munch. They're just now, I'm just saying that, we call them unaffected scum or NPCs. It's just like in a video game. You'll run into the NPC characters that interface with your story, and they'll talk to you like they'll have a cutscene and they're talking to you like a real person. They seem like a real person in the story, but they're not. But they can pretend really well. I think, part of me was thinking that we were, when we shifted, picking up little pieces of our soul as we go, and that each time we do become more complete, because there's a theory that through the timelines or through past lives that we lose little pieces of our soul, that we are fractured, so to speak, throughout timelines, throughout time and space or whatever, and that these fracturings affect us in the sense of our spiritual growth, and that we're not whole, and that we're shifting, we're picking up another piece of our soul as we go. And some people in our world don't have all their pieces of their soul. Hey, Dark Wolf, nice to see you. I was talking about how randomness isn't random. Me, I'm all over the place. I go all over the place. So if this isn't random, or if we're picking up pieces of our soul as we travel, whatever might be going on, we know things are not random here, that we can affect our reality and that we can affect our path. We already, that we have, some people say we don't have free agency. I think we might have more free agency than we realize, and that telling us that we don't is to keep us from using it, to keep us from using our power to change our lives and our world. Now, I put up Halloween poems and stuff, creepy stuff I've written. I also put up Mandela effect videos. I only have 62 videos up total, so I'm just really new at this. I also am narrating a book called The Cosmic Dance, which oddly enough is what they call Shiva doing the cosmic dance. I don't know if there's everything's connected, so I don't know what's going on, but I'm narrating it. I've done chapter 4, up to chapter 4. And it talks about how the dark energies in the astral are fighting to maintain their existence and control. And so I think we're dealing with that too. We're dealing with the people that let these negative things have power over them. Anyway, so if things aren't random, we have more power than we realize. There is actually more free agency perhaps than we think. That whatever society's trying to convince us of, just take a look at it and say, is it true? It's sort of like Byron Katie. You ask yourself, is that really true? You can do this with your own thoughts. When you say, I feel unworthy, and you that I know good, and you say, is that really true? And you have to examine it. You have to examine it. Is it really true? Ask the question, is it really true?
Did you help with something?
My kids. Um,
Garbage.
so, we're having things now where we're getting together, like Dark Wolf's conference going on in Idaho and things like this. Hi, MA. I was just talking about, I don't know if you heard, I was talking about the randomness, that there is nothing random anymore. That's something, my own little experiments with the tarot readers, that the consistency was quite remarkable in their readings. And the way they did it with, up to 300 different cards, it's like the randomness should have been there. Should have been different stuff each time, but it wasn't. It wasn't, and it was very strange. You know, we live in a world where there's shadow and light. And I was always taught in my religious upbringing about that we had to have the shadow and the light to have free agency. Well, that may be true. And I think that we have to have something we can choose between to have free agency. If you're never given choices, you don't have free agency. So a lot of people think we don't have choices because um, the world manipulates us so much. But we can step beyond the programming. And that's, I think, what the MA community is that somehow we have stepped beyond the programming of sorts. It's like we're seeing into the matrix just a little bit, not a lot. I mean, some more than others. And is there no evil in this? Oh yeah, there's evil here. Oh hell yeah, it is. There is. There's no question in my mind that there is a force to fight, to resist, to overcome. Indeed, there's also light. And as I'm reading this book, and it was written in 91, I got permission to do this book and the other book, which is this one after. She's given me permission to narrate both of them. She does newer books and she does workshops. Her name is Julie Suskin. She lives in the south of France, a lucky bum that she is, and does workshops in the UK about spiritual progression and intuition and psychic gifts and stuff like that. Hi, Veronica. So we have, um, the cards, oddly enough, told me all the same thing. And a lot of it had to do with my life path and doing my channel. So I think I'm going in the right direction. Because when you're not going in the right direction, things will fight against you. Sometimes you'll fight against yourself. Sometimes you have to sort of let the universe guide you, and that's why you need that intuitive ability, that intuitive strength. And that's why I like to do tarot and meditate and things like this, because it increases my intuitive connection to source. Um, but you could just pray if you're religious in that sense. There's prayer that also helps you connect to source. Whatever way works for you, to develop that intuitive ability so that you are working on a level beyond the world's bullpucky. Okay? That you're working beyond this malarkey they try to feed us. Really, the garbage they try to feed us. And every time, we see these MEs, some of them are beautiful MEs. They're like weird looking animals. And they're freaking strange and amazing. And some of them aren't so good. They're like historic. Some of them are good, like Van Gogh. His life is way better in this timeline. And I'm so happy. I'll do another video on him on his paintings. And you tell me if you remember that many paintings. They're absolutely stunning. And it's like, I always loved his art, but now I adore his art. Unicorns. Yeah, well, it won't be long till we have an honest to gosh horse with a horn in the middle of its forehead. That's not just a genetic aberration. Oh my goodness. Um, Try not to let fear get a hold of you because you can't project light into the world if you're fearful. It just doesn't work. And so I'll continue investigating this randomness thing because I'm very, very interested in this. And I want to learn a little more about other things, of course. I'm not like MA who knows everything just about. There's just certain areas that I'm relatively good at, not like him where he just like his memory and his observation skills are off the hook. So we're all sexy in here. Anyway, well, I that's one of the reasons Esmeralda's talking about strange creatures and stuff, hybrid animals, and you see them in art. You see them in the ancient art, the Sumerian and stuff like that, and the Anunnaki, and these weird looking half man, half this, half, and you're just wondering, and that's why I mean the symbols and stuff, they change, and these changes, these things we see have meaning. We just don't know what it is, and science and archaeologists and everything, they'll have their ideas, but they're just theories. They don't know for sure unless they have some contemporary writing of the time, and even that's only the view of the person doing the writing. So there's so much that's not written down, but we're seeing more and more. What really gets me is Egypt and all the crazy stuff there. We have mummies coming out of our ears now. We found a whole another 100, 200, 300 mummies and 600 mummy portraits. And it's like, what the fricky dicky do? Not to mention the fact that the pyramids are now right next to an oasis where there's a city and a river. Like mummies and daddies. Uh, 5D, that's so naughty. Anyway, yeah, the pyramids are totally in the wrong order. And they were out in the middle of the frickin' desert, The big one was on the far left, the one with that partial cap, you know. Really, I was talking the other day about the ME with the swastika, okay? Now, we know in India and other Asian cultures, they had a swastika, and it's changed direction so many times. I do not know if it's counterclockwise or clockwise. I know that Hitler and the Nazis were very much into their finding a pagan race and symbol so they could set themselves apart from the rest of the world, so they could justify murder and mayhem. And I was looking, and lo and behold, if the Native Americans didn't also have a swastika, and they agreed not to use it during World War II. That's an ME for me. They didn't have the swastika in my original timeline. And I was into that. I was into the symbols of Native Americans. I mean, I've always been into this weird symbolic stuff. I've always have, and culture and traditions and cryptids and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean cryptids. That's one thing. Like Bigfoot used to be, ha ha ha, funny. Now people see him all the time. Credible people see this creature all the time. Okay, now every deep lake has a monster. Monster, maybe two. Watch for these things. Watch for the symbols popping up in our logos and stuff, and see how they change. And look back at the symbols that perhaps they came from. Okay, where they came from. It's kind of like how things go when I did the Wendigo video. How originally the Native Americans described him one way, but when the Europeans came, he suddenly became one of these forest creatures with the antlers, like you see in Europe. That things morph and change according to influences of culture. And that's very strange. It's very strange. So, for that sense, that's why I do things about legends and cryptids and stuff like that, because I think everything's connected, and each time we have a big shift, the stories change, the meaning changes, the whether or not it's real or not changes. And I don't know how much we're manifesting these things into reality, or how much the collective consciousness and their beliefs are creating them. I don't know. I don't know. I don't have answers. I'm not going to come around and say I know the answers. But I know that things are pretty strange. But this thing about randomness and synchronicity, I think that's why synchronicities happen, because things aren't random. It's like one thing, Scott Harrison went and bought a battery at a store, and it was a brand he doesn't buy, and he bought it with cash. He comes home, gets online, and that same battery is being advertised to him on a site he's at. So is that synchronicity, or is that creating your own reality? I don't know. Is that Big Brother watching? I don't know. Who's Big Brother? Yeah, it's bizarre. It's bizarre. Yeah, Ghosty, animals are just so colorful now. I can't believe the varieties of pigs and horses and insects and birds and Cupid. That was the people spying on you, Scott. I know, it's like, but I mean, how quickly? How quickly? So if you feel like you're a targeted individual, I wouldn't say you're not. Maybe we all are. Maybe everybody who's not in charge, so to speak, I don't want to sound paranoid, is a targeted individual. It may not be anything to do with ME community at all. You have to sometimes think outside the box and stop putting yourself in a box. You don't belong in a box, because you're growing, expanding spirit being. There's no limit. There's no limit to you. You're expansive. We expand in our abilities and knowledge constantly. This is the way we are created. This is what we are. So, now what's Maria saying? You're going to find out someone's near. What's going on? Let me see if I can find you. Pyramids. I've read some interesting things about the pyramids. Now, there's channels underneath them that supposedly, because it was at one time the Nile River was relatively close, that there was a channel of water that traveled. I'm going to turn off my Hangouts. I hate the ding, ding, ding. that there was a channel of water that traveled through it, and that the channel was made of some kind of quartz laden stone, and that there were niches in which about the size of a person laying down that a person could be put into, that this was a healing kind of place for energies to heal your if you heal your etheric body, your astral body, your physical body will heal. It's that kind of idea. um yeah, they find these big huge um sarcophagi shaped stone bathtubs kind of thing, but there's no evidence that there was ever a sarcophagus in it. It's like they're designed for someone to lay in water or something. I think they've already found things under the Sphinx and they're just not telling us. There's a lot of misinformation about, I mean, you just feel like they're just not telling us, you know, they're just not telling us. They don't think we can handle it or something. Maybe that's it. I don't know. Wow, Floyd, that's cool. I have a little bit because I have like 200, 300 years of 200 years of French Canadian ancestry. I have just a little, enough to me to be, I guess, adopted. Yeah, they think that Egypt, everything was kind of started by the Atlanteans. That Thoth was an Atlantean. I've read Zachariah Sitchin on my other computer that my son has to rescue all my books off the hard drive. I have all his books. Fascinating man who thought outside the box, who had some compelling arguments. I'm not saying he's right in everything, but anything that gets people thinking and talking is not a bad thing. He laid in that coffin thing when his astral body entered the underworld. I don't know if it's under the right or the left paw. Don't know. But I mean, you know, the Sphinx changes, the pyramids change. The whole necropolis next to the pyramid never existed for me. The Queen pyramids never existed, and all these other pyramids popping up throughout Egypt along the Nile, up and down, and some inland even more, did not exist for me. And supposedly they were discovered like way back. And all these mummies. Oh, we just found a bunch of hundred some more mummies, just out of nowhere. Valley of the Kings are still finding all kinds of stuff, and I thought they had decided they'd found everything there, but no, they're still finding stuff. It's very strange, very strange. So this means that when life starts dishing out some crap at you, and if things aren't random, we all have a lot of baggage. We've all collected baggage from our life experiences. Just think for a moment, what am I supposed to learn from this, and can I release it before it causes any more damage? Hi, Johnny. Can I release this stuff before it causes more damage in my life? Because I do not accept it. I do not accept this bad stuff in my life. I reject it. That, you have power to learn the lesson and release the pain. That's what I'm working on with my baggage. Because I know I have self-esteem issues and stuff like that. And so, if I have control over things and things are not random, I have power. And I must not forget that. I must not forget that I have power. We all have power. And the world will tell us we don't, over and over and over. And we can't take that answer as the real deal. We cannot accept it. We have to realize that we are more than that. Choose the light. You won't regret it. Well, you know what really gets me is it Sicily? That I mean, I swear you could just canoe to Sicily. I mean, Sicily's so close to the boot of Italy now that it's ridiculous. And it's like, when we see South America so close to Europe, so close to Africa, the whole idea that people came and back and forth because we had some tremendous, the Phoenicians and others were tremendous seafarers. There's no reason why they couldn't have gotten over there. And the whole idea that, the old narrative about South America and about Australia and stuff, we need to rethink that because it may have been true in a timeline that we're from, but that's not the story anymore. Different story. Chinese. Oh, the hourglass. Is that the one that has the red on the top of the abdomen instead of on the underside, Esmeralda? I know. There's the spider turned up that has the hourglass on the top instead of on the abdomen. It's like we live in the upside down. Some people have trouble watching Stranger Things because there's something eerie about it. That kind of resonates. I hate to use the word; it's overused with what we're experiencing to some extent. Was my son singing? I'm just like hearing, what? Never mind. That doesn't happen in my house very often. My son that sang all the time lives in Canada. He used to walk around singing parts of songs. He wouldn't sing the whole song. He's 6'7". He'd come up to you and you'd look up and he'd just start singing at you like with his arms, and then walk away. I do miss him. Oh, Floyd, you're such a naughty. Oh, you've noticed how birds are looking more lizard-like now than ever. We know, I always thought chickens were like lizards with, feathers, but now all the dinosaurs have feathers. So I'm right. Yeah, yeah, the freaky looking water creatures. How some of them are getting big. I know that QP has gotten a lot of pictures of birds and water creatures that I'm going to put into a video along with some other people's stuff. Whoever sends me anything, and I won't say who did it or anything. It'll be just like this is stuff that I've collected from people from the old ME24. I'm so glad for you, Munch. You deserve good things. We all deserve good things. You have to realize that. You have to believe that you deserve good things in your life. You deserve it. You deserve to be happy. You deserve to be enlightened. You deserve to be loved, and you deserve to love. Okay. And this world is brutal. It's absolutely brutal. It is brutal. And so, that's why we have each other. You're not alone. And this book that I'm narrating, one of the things they emphasize is that you're not alone. This is someone channeling their higher self or a higher being or something, and you're not alone. You aren't alone. It is a perception that we have. People that have near-death experiences, the first thing they feel is a oneness, oftentimes with someone else, with a greater universe, or with the infinite light. They feel a oneness. They don't feel alone ever, and they miss it when they come back. When they come back, it's like, I miss that oneness, that feeling I belong, the feeling of love and acceptance. So basically, what we have here is a perception. We perceive ourselves as being solitary beings, and we're not. We're not here alone. We are not here alone. For some reason, I can't connect to live chat. Let me see. It's disconnected me from chat. Can you still see me? Let me see if my other things. Well, there we go. Well, it disconnected me from chat. Disconnected me from chat. Yeah, I know you had. Yeah. So, um, and I want to change that to 3 weeks ago. An 8-year-old boy drowned in my sister's swimming pool, and we couldn't revive him. Tried for 2 hours. The ambulance finally showed up. What happened, Esmeralda? Oh, that's so sad. People can't take this world. This is a rough place. We should never judge people that take their lives because, I can. It's just sad that they get so despondent that they do that. It's just terribly sad. Oh, that's just so sad. We've discussed about whether or not there's a heaven or hell or anything like that. And I think there is if we believe it. I personally think that when we die, we go back to source and we become one with each other. We're still individuals to some, to a large extent, but we're also part of a collective of light and spirit. And that this is something that, this is not our home. This place we're at now is not our home. This is final exam week. That's why it's so stressful. Yeah, a lot of suicide in this world, and that's why we need to, as much as we can, to spread light and compassion and stuff, because as much as we can, but there will people that just can't take it, and I'm not going to judge them. Not going to judge them. It is part of the game. It is part of the game, and it's not a very nice game. So I'll be narrating my next chapter today. Now, you don't have to believe everything in this book, but there are little gems of enlightening information that you might benefit from. You might agree with some of it. Some of it, you don't have to agree with everything to read a book or anything like this. You can say, well, I don't believe in that, and I don't believe in that, but that's interesting. Take what you need out of it. See if it, and if nothing else, it might bring you to thinking about something and coming to your own conclusions, thinking about your experiences and what you've been through. And this will propel you forward. I was going to talk about self-esteem and baggage, but I think of anyone here who's really dealt with it really well. I'd say it's First Munch. He's had a lot of challenge in his life, and he's using the challenges he's had to channel into his art. And that is how he is, I guess the right word is manifesting beauty and compelling art into reality. Good for you, Munch. Way to go, dude. Just remember, to be here for each other. I will do another chapter today, and I have an ME video in the works that I want to do as well. I got to do more research on it, that sort of thing. So I'll say goodbye for now. And thank you for coming in, and have a wonderful day or evening. And I'll see you next week, and maybe on ME calls or whatever. Don't be shy. Come on in. If you don't want to, talk, that's okay. You can listen to us be silly, because we are silly an awful lot. We laugh a lot. We're not all serious. We do a lot of joking, some of it a little off color, because we have Brits in the room. I've had getting used to that was I was kind of used to it anyway, but still it was interesting. And you get to hear Cupid's voice, which is just adorable. So you're welcome to come in when he has, we have our group chat there on Hangouts, by all means. You have a wonderful day, and thank you for coming in. Keep thinking and keep asking those questions. Bye-bye.